Welcome to Life Stories, where we bring you powerful tales of love, loss, and the unpredictable nature of life. Today, we share the poignant journey of Olivia and James, childhood friends whose bond blossomed into a love story for the ages. From their perfect wedding to a tragic, heart-wrenching end, this story will leave you reflecting on the fleeting nature of happiness and the importance of cherishing each moment. Join us as we dive into their unforgettable tale. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to begin today's story. There are some stories that feel as though they're written in the stars. A love so inevitable that it feels like the universe itself conspired to bring two souls together. Olivia and James's story was one of those. Born into two affluent families in Los Angeles, California, they were more than just childhood friends. They were destined for something much deeper. Something that only time could reveal. From the moment they were born, Olivia and James's lives were intertwined. Their families had known each other for years, two dynasties, rich in culture and tradition, built on generations of success and stability. Their parents, both successful in their respective fields, shared a deep bond that went beyond business and into a mutual respect for their shared heritage. It was in this world of privilege that Olivia and James grew up, surrounded by the luxuries that many could only dream of. Yet, for them, none of that mattered. What truly mattered was the simple joy of growing up side by side. Their childhood was marked by a closeness that could not be explained. They spent hours in the sprawling gardens of their family's estates, chasing each other, laughing as if they were the only two people in the world. When they weren't outside, they were inside, sitting side by side, their heads buried in books or battling each other in video games. James, ever the strategist, would usually win, but Olivia's competitive spirit ensured that each game was followed by a rematch. She was relentless, pushing herself to win, refusing to accept anything less than perfection. Even in those moments of play, there was a certain magic in the way they complemented each other. Where James was steady, Olivia was bold. Where James was practical, Olivia was imaginative. They were two halves of a whole, creating a harmony that could never be broken. As they grew older, their bond only deepened. It was a bond that was not so easily understood by others. Teachers would often comment on how well they worked together, how their different strengths made them a perfect team. James was logical, methodical, and always grounded. Olivia, on the other hand, was a dreamer, creative, ambitious, and unafraid to take risks. Despite their differences, they were perfectly in tune with each other. They knew each other's thoughts before they were spoken, understood each other's needs before they were voiced. In the most unspoken way, they shared a trust that no one else could ever hope to understand. Yet, as with all relationships, there came a time when things began to shift. It wasn't sudden, and it wasn't something that either of them saw coming. But it was there, creeping into their hearts as they entered their teenage years. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing something new and tender. What once had been a simple friendship now began to feel like something more. Something that neither of them could quite put into words, but both could feel in their bones. It was subtle at first. James began to notice how Olivia's laughter seemed to light up a room. How the way she scrunched her nose when she was frustrated made her even more endearing. Olivia, too, began to see James in a new light. She noticed how he had grown taller, his once boyish features now giving way to a handsome, confident young man. The quiet strength he carried with him had become more pronounced, and it made her heart race in a way she hadn't expected. And it wasn't just them. Others around them began to notice, too. They started to ask if they were more than just friends. At first, they laughed it off, brushing the question aside. But as the years passed, the question no longer seemed so absurd. By the time they turned 16, the shift was undeniable. What had once been an effortless, easy friendship had transformed into something deeper, something more complex. It wasn't just about companionship anymore. It was about how James's heart raced whenever Olivia was near, how Olivia found herself watching James when he wasn't looking. It was about that fleeting glance that lasted a little too long. That quiet smile that lingered in the air. It was in those small, tender moments that they realized their feelings for each other had grown into something far more profound. One evening, after a long day of studying for exams, They sat together on the rooftop of Olivia's house, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, the warm breeze carrying the scent of blooming jasmine. It was in that peaceful silence, with the world stretching out before them, that Olivia finally voiced what had been lingering in her heart for months. "Do you ever wonder," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "what it would be like if we were more than just this?" James turned to her, his heart quickening as he met her gaze. He had thought about it. Of course, he had felt the change, felt the shift in the air between them, but he had never dared to speak it aloud. After a long pause, he nodded. "Yeah," he admitted quietly, "I do." Olivia met his gaze, searching for something in his expression. Whatever she found there gave her the answer she needed, for she smiled softly, tentatively, but full of something unspoken. Without another word, she leaned in and pressed a light, fleeting kiss to his lips. It was simple, but it was enough to mark the beginning of something neither of them had planned, but both welcomed with open hearts. And so, their relationship entered a new chapter. They were still best friends, still each other's greatest supporters. But now, there was a new depth to their connection. It was no longer just about the shared moments of childhood. It was about love, vulnerability, and the willingness to embrace what the future held for them. Together, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it as partners, side by side, with the same trust that had always bound them. As Olivia and James entered adulthood, their lives began to take on a new shape, one that was defined not only by their love but by their individual dreams and ambitions. They had grown up together, yes, but now they were each carving out their own identities in the world, guided by passions that were as distinct as they were intertwined. James had always been fascinated by architecture. As a child, he had spent hours drawing designs, sketching buildings and structures that seemed to come alive on the paper. His meticulous nature and eye for detail made him a natural fit for architecture. He enrolled in one of the country's most prestigious architectural programs, immersing himself in design, history, and the artistry behind creating lasting legacies. It wasn't just about building structures for him, it was about creating something that would stand the test of time. Something that would be remembered long after he was gone. Olivia, on the other hand, had always been drawn to fashion. From a young age, she had a unique sense of style, blending colors, patterns, and textures in ways that left others in awe. She was fascinated by how fashion could tell a story, express a culture, and define a generation. She pursued a degree in fashion design, focusing on African-inspired haute couture. Her work became known for its intricate beadwork and its ability to merge traditional elements with modern aesthetics. Olivia was determined to challenge industry norms, pushing boundaries and redefining what it meant to be a designer. Their academic lives were demanding, but their love for each other never faltered. They supported each other through sleepless nights, academic stress, and the pressure to excel in highly competitive industries. Despite their different schedules and commitments, weekends remained sacred. They would go on long drives, exploring new parts of the city or venturing into the countryside to try new restaurants. They often spent afternoons just talking about their dreams, sharing their fears, and finding solace in each other's presence. It was in these quiet moments that they reaffirmed the love they had for each other and the life they were building together. As their studies progressed, they began to gain recognition in their respective fields. James's professors took notice of his rare blend of innovation and respect for historical structures, seeing in him the potential to be not just an architect but a visionary, someone who could leave a lasting imprint on the world. By the time he was in his final year, he had already secured an internship with one of the top architectural firms in the country, a testament to his skill and dedication. Olivia's journey was no less impressive. In her second year, she started designing custom pieces, showcasing them on social media. It didn't take long for her bold, vibrant designs to catch the attention of influencers and industry insiders. By her third year, she had secured an internship with a renowned fashion house, and her work had been featured in emerging designer showcases. Olivia was ambitious, determined, and unafraid to challenge industry norms, traits that helped her stand out in a highly competitive field. Despite the increasing demands of their careers, Olivia and James never lost sight of what mattered most: their love for each other. They had grown together, not only as partners in love but as individuals, each pursuing their dreams while supporting the other. They faced the challenges of adulthood together, navigating the highs and lows of young adulthood with the same determination that had defined their childhood. They knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, side by side, as equals. Their relationship had evolved, but its foundation remained the same. They were each other's greatest supporters, their bond unshakable despite the pressures of their individual ambitions. Olivia and James knew that their love wasn't just a fleeting romance, it was something enduring. Something that would withstand the test of time. They had built a life together, one that was as much about dreams and aspirations as it was about love. And they were ready to take the next step. The future was uncertain, but in each other, they found a certainty that gave them the strength to face whatever came their way. The proposal came unexpectedly, yet in hindsight, it was perfect in every way. After years of shared dreams, laughter, and love, James knew he wanted to spend his life with Olivia, and he had been carrying an engagement ring for weeks, waiting for the right moment. That moment came during a trip to Hawaii, a place Olivia had always wanted to visit. Enchanted by its lush landscapes and rich cultural heritage, she had suggested the getaway, and James saw it as the perfect opportunity to ask the question that had been on his mind for so long. The first few days of their trip were magical. They stayed in a luxurious eco-lodge on the edge of a sprawling jungle, where the mornings were spent on safari drives, the afternoons by infinity pools overlooking the crystal-clear waters, and the evenings beneath the most star-filled skies they had ever seen. Olivia, in her element, was constantly inspired, capturing every moment on camera, sketching designs for her fashion collections inspired by the landscapes and colors around her. James, watching her with admiration, knew without a doubt that there was no one else in the world he would rather share his life with. On the fourth night of their stay, James had arranged a private dinner on a secluded terrace overlooking the vast wilderness. The table was set with candlelight, and the air was filled with the distant sounds of the jungle as the sun set in the distance, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold. As they sat down to enjoy their meal, Olivia's excitement and passion for her future collections spilled out, and James listened intently, his heart racing in his chest. This was the moment. As the last rays of sunlight faded, James reached for Olivia's hand. His voice was steady but full of emotion as he spoke, telling her how he had loved her for as long as he could remember, how they had grown up together, and how there was no life for him without her in it. He slid from his chair, kneeling before her, the ring gleaming in the soft light. Olivia's eyes widened as she took in the sight, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to stop. "I don't want to rush you," James continued, his voice softer now, "but I know, deep in my soul, that you're the woman I want to spend my life with. Whether it's now, a year from now, or 10 years from now, I'll wait for you. But if you're ready, I want to be your husband." Olivia, overwhelmed with emotion, took a moment to compose herself. She had imagined this moment countless times, but nothing could have prepared her for the rush of feelings that surged through her now. She looked into James's eyes, saw the certainty and love in them, and felt her heart swell with joy. In a breathless whisper, she answered, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The world seemed to disappear as James slid the ring onto her finger. As they embraced, the sounds of the jungle around them faded, leaving only the two of them in a moment that felt both timeless and infinite. That night, they lay awake, talking about the future they would build together. They spoke of wedding plans, the places they wanted to travel, the family they hoped to have one day. They dreamed of a life filled with love, adventure, and unwavering devotion. When they returned to Los Angeles, their engagement was met with overwhelming excitement from both families. Their parents, who had long hoped for this moment, threw an intimate gathering in their honor, filled with laughter, champagne, and stories of how Olivia and James had grown up together. But amidst the joy of the celebration, the reality of wedding planning quickly set in. For Olivia and James, this wasn't just about having a beautiful wedding. It was about creating a celebration that truly reflected who they were as individuals and as a couple. They spent countless hours discussing every detail, ensuring that their wedding would be a perfect blend of elegance, cultural heritage, and personal significance. The venue became the first big decision. After weeks of searching, they found the perfect location, a historic estate perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. A place that felt both timeless and majestic. The estate's panoramic views and lush surroundings seemed to perfectly mirror the love they shared, vast, enduring, and breathtaking. Once the venue was secured, the real planning began. Olivia, ever the perfectionist, worked closely with wedding planners to ensure that every detail was meticulously crafted. Her dress, designed by one of the top designers in the fashion world, would incorporate intricate beadwork and patterns inspired by her African heritage, blending tradition with haute couture. James, though less concerned with the specifics, shared her excitement, trusting her judgment and knowing that the most important thing to him was that she would be the one standing by his side. Together, they navigated the stresses of wedding preparations, finding solace in the small moments, late-night conversations on their balcony, dreaming about their future beyond the wedding. The excitement surrounding the wedding grew. Their guest list quickly expanded. And soon, it became clear that this would not just be a wedding, it would be an event of the year. Family, friends, and industry leaders from both fashion and architecture would come together to celebrate the union of two people who had not only defied the odds of young love but had also proven that their bond was destined to last. But amidst the whirlwind of planning, Olivia and James remained grounded, always remembering that at the heart of it all, their love was the most important thing. And they both knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. The wedding day arrived, bathed in golden light, as though the universe itself was celebrating the love that Olivia and James had built over the years. The estate they had chosen for their wedding was a masterpiece, a place that seemed to have been made for them, surrounded by towering cliffs and endless views of the Pacific Ocean. The venue was a breathtaking combination of elegance and natural beauty. The air was crisp with a hint of salt from the ocean breeze, and the soft hum of excitement filled the courtyard as their guests gathered to witness the union of two souls who had been inseparable since childhood. Olivia's gown shimmered beneath the sun, its intricate beadwork telling a story of culture, heritage, and love. Her mother adjusted her veil, eyes glistening with pride as she looked at her daughter, so full of promise and beauty. James stood just across from her, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his hands slightly trembling with anticipation. He was ready, more than ready. This was the moment they had both been waiting for, an undeniable testament to their love, to their shared journey, and to the future they would build together. As the ceremony began, everything felt surreal. The music played softly in the background, and the guests watched with anticipation as Olivia stepped forward, her father by her side, leading her to James. The world around them seemed to fade into the background as they locked eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. For a moment, there was no crowd, no grandeur, just the two of them, standing at the threshold of forever. Olivia's breath hitched as she gazed at James, and in that instant, all the doubts and uncertainties that had clouded their minds in the past seemed to vanish. This was it. This was the beginning of something greater than either of them had ever known. The vows they spoke to each other were raw, unguarded, and deeply personal. Olivia told James that he had been her foundation for as long as she could remember, standing by her side through every triumph and failure. James, in turn, spoke of the love he had felt for her since childhood, how she was not just his partner but his home, no matter where life took them. As they exchanged rings, their love became official, sealed with promises of forever. The reception that followed was nothing short of spectacular. The glass pavilion was transformed into a stunning vision of elegance, with golden candlelight flickering across tables adorned with exquisite floral arrangements. The air was filled with the sound of laughter, music, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Olivia and James moved through the evening as though they were the stars of their own fairy tale, laughing, dancing, and sharing quiet moments between the festivities. The world felt perfect. It was a celebration not just of their wedding day, but of the love that had endured through the years. As the evening wore on, Olivia's father stood to make a speech. He beamed with pride, his voice thick with emotion as he spoke about the rarity and strength of the love that Olivia and James shared. It was a love, he said, that had withstood the test of time. And to mark this beginning of their new journey, he had a surprise for them, a gift that would make this day even more unforgettable. Outside, a sleek helicopter waited on the estate's private helipad, its gleaming black and gold exterior reflecting the soft light of the reception. Olivia gasped, turning to James with wide eyes. Her father explained that this was a gift, a way for them to see the world from a new perspective. An unforgettable experience that would offer them a breathtaking aerial view of the coastline. Excitement rippled through the crowd as they made their way toward the helicopter. The joy and thrill of the moment were palpable as Olivia and James boarded the aircraft, ready to take off into the night sky. For them, it felt like the perfect end to their perfect day. They had conquered everything together: love, life, and now, the future. But as the helicopter ascended into the night, a sudden, sharp gust of wind rocked the aircraft. What had begun as an exhilarating adventure turned into a nightmare in a matter of seconds. The helicopter swayed unnaturally, and a sense of dread filled the cabin as the pilot's voice crackled through the headset. Tense but controlled. "Hold on," he said. "We've hit an unexpected crosswind." Olivia clutched James's hand, her heart racing, but there was little time to react before the next jolt came. The helicopter tilted violently, sending them spinning uncontrollably. In those moments, nothing else mattered but the fear, the terror, and the knowledge that their perfect night had turned into something unthinkable. And as the aircraft continued to lose stability, Olivia's grip on James tightened, a desperate hope that they could survive this crashing down around them. The world around them twisted and blurred, and all they could do was hold each other as tightly as they could. As the helicopter descended uncontrollably, Olivia and James held each other, their hearts racing in fear. The world outside blurred, and for a brief moment, it seemed like time had stopped. Then, in an instant, everything shattered as the helicopter crashed violently into the rocks below. Darkness took over, and all that remained was the deafening silence of the night. When the chaos finally settled, the wreckage lay scattered against the jagged cliffs, a grim reminder of the beautiful evening that had gone horribly wrong. The once celebratory atmosphere that had filled their wedding was now replaced by shock and sorrow. The people who had gathered to celebrate their union now stood in disbelief, unable to comprehend the magnitude of the loss. Olivia's father, who had been so proud just hours earlier, was now broken by the weight of his daughter's untimely death. James's parents, once full of joy, were left devastated by the loss of the young couple they had watched grow up. Their dream of a lifetime together had been stolen in a flash, leaving only the echoes of the love they had shared. Despite the tragedy, Olivia and James's love remained eternal. Their story, though tragically cut short, was a beautiful testament to the power of true love, the kind that transcends time, distance, and even death. It was a reminder to cherish every precious moment with those we love. For life is fragile, and we never know when it might change forever. If this story touched your heart, be sure to subscribe to our channel to hear more incredible life stories. Don't forget to share this video with others who need to hear it. Until next time.